Welcome to beautiful Antwerp. Welcome to PC TechDays. You're very lucky with the weather today. No morning rain, but don't get used to it, I would say. It's good to be back. It's good to see you all back. This year, we changed the name. Now we call it PC TechDays. We still leave NV in the logo. Can be old-fashioned or nostalgic, but it all started with NV, and once in a while, I still tend to use the name Navision.
We will be using rooms 5, 8 and 9.
A fine selection of beers for you to try out. So these three, we start modest, so start from 5.5 till 6.2%. Then we have three more. Because my Antwerp, the Cornet Oaks, and Triple 4, they are a bit stronger. 8, 8.5, 8.8, and we save the best for last. That's the Trappist quadruple with a percentage of 10.
Good morning, everybody. It's so great to be back at TechDays after 3 years. We always love coming at this conference, and we really miss you. Because Business Central has a tremendous online momentum at the moment. Last time we were here in 2019, there were about 450 solutions on the App Store. Now we have more than 2,700 applications. Thanks to you. On the map, it looks like this. You can see all the places where Business Central is currently available. And there's practically nowhere in the world where you cannot get Business Central.
We haven't seen you for 3 years, but trust me, we have heard you. On Yammer, on IdeaStalk, and of course on the GitHub and on Twitter. We have collected your feedback about what you would like us to do to make your productivity tools better. Another high-class feature. Setting the default application area. You know, there's a story about this. I think there was a frustrated developer that wrote to us on the Yammer. I'm adding a lot of control to a page right now, and I need to modify every single time this default application area. If not, it doesn't show on the page. Why you hate us so much?
We want to convey to you today. That is that Business Central is deeply integrated with our platform. Let's see if I can actually move this process invoice action right here in my promoted area. Now that's good. In the Business Central page with the automation flow. So your record will be passed to this flow. Two main concepts that powers this new action bar. So one of them is the promoted area. We wanted to make sure that the promoted area is a first-class citizen on our pages.
It is not a secret that the permission system is not really easy to set up. It's not easy to create new permissions, even though we got a whole lot of new features for generating permission sets and also moving the permissions to metadata. But in all honesty, besides that, we haven't really made changes to the permission system since it was created in the very early days of Navision. So the exclude is very important here as well. The blue area that you see on the slide here, where we first add up all the included ones, and then we subtract the excluded ones. As I said before, there's sometimes some areas where you just want to give the system permission. And you don't need to assign those to customers or to the users. In the users, because whenever they call this function, they will automatically get this permission. Right now, the inherent permission property is only working on the method scope here, but we are working also of enabling this at the object level, so we can have larger objects that have specific permissions built in. But before we go any further, we want to start using the inherent permissions as well, because we need to remove as much from the permission of the application that you don't need to set permissions for before we start building more permission sets.
Simon is happy, as you can see. Simon is done, they're delivering the app, and the customer is also happy, but the customer also follows the trend in IT world. And they know something which Simon did not anticipate. They're asking Simon about source control and continuous integration, and Simon says, yeah, we have source control, and every time a single developer is doing anything, we integrate it with the other guys. So isn't that what you mean by continuous integration? Well, not entirely. What about automated test execution? And you heard about the performance testing, like dependency management and all of these things, and Simon starts to get worried, and yeah, do you test our app for the next major, and do we do continuous deployment, continuous delivery? Simon is kind of a little worried now, and then when he kind of realizes that he needs to maintain all of this, he starts to cry, and when he realizes that he needs to do that for many, many apps, he's crying his eyes out, right? Until he discovers ALO for GitHub. ALO for GitHub is a DevOps tool for Business Central partners, and it doesn't require you to know anything about DevOps, about Docker, about YAML, about PowerShell, or anything like that. It's a plug-and-play tool. It is where DevOps becomes a tool instead of an investment area. And ALO for GitHub supports all of the things that were worrying Simon just a moment ago. A few other things, if we look at ALO for GitHub, the secret sauce of ALO for GitHub is really all of these workflows that are there to help you work with ALO for GitHub. And people saying that they're too busy to set up DevOps is kind of like a woodcutter who's saying he's too busy to sharpen his sword.
You will be able to follow it as it happens, and you will be able to comment on it, and you will also be able to contribute to it.
And when is this going to happen? Well, actually now, we were supposed to remove it from the product already in the spring release, but we could see from telemetry that a lot of you were still using it. So we kind of held on to it a little bit more, a little longer, but we are going to remove it on the 1st of October. So there's still a little bit of time, but if you're using web access key, you need to go and refactor the code, otherwise any web access you do to PC will stop working. One of the last one, the hardest one we had to migrate was the NST. And the NST will be running on .NET Core very, very soon. And that means for you that you have server-side .NET add-ins, you need to migrate them to .NET Standard at minimum. Actually, there's another option which I'll talk about on the next slide, which is the one we recommend for you to move and stay compatible with .NET Core. When is it going to happen? Well, 2023 is Wave 1. This is when we will release NST on .NET Core. So be ready for it, and you should start going and update your server-side add-ins before that. How many of you have server-side add-ins? Well, I don't see many hands. That's good. That means there's a lot of work to do. And what you could do when everything will be running in the .NET Core runtime is migrate your own edit to .NET Core. But if you reference a third-party library which doesn't have a .NET Core version, then you will not be able to do that. So instead, what we recommend is to move to a cloud-ready architecture, which looks like this. And in order to do that, it's pretty simple. You take your server-side add-in and whatever third-party library you reference and put them in a function app in the cloud. And that's pretty straightforward and very simple. And instead of using .NET Interop, you call your .NET server-side add-in through HTTP request, and that's it. So let's start with the first prototype I want to show you, which is actually something that is more of a user feature. A lot of cool stuff. For example, I can go and let's look at the amount of my sales order. I can mark some of them, and you see at the bottom the sum of it, the min and max, the count, so something you might be familiar with from Excel. I can do that directly now in the product without having to export to Excel. I can do grouping, for example, by customer names. So I have my customers here, and I can go and expand in the kind of tree view to do some grouping. I can go and pin that column on the right, on the left, sorry. You can already do that with the grid we have, but I can also pin another column here on the left, on the right, if I want to, and it's very useful, for example, if you have very large, very wide lists. AL Development Central. So that's a great, that would be a screen, a tab that will appear when you start up Visual Studio Code if you want. And we will be able to push some feeds and information about AL and about AL development. So, great way for you to get news and about what's happening with AL development, new features in the compiler, efficient-based code, and only for AL extension. And by the way, the grid that is used here is the same grid that I showed you before, same controls. I can also do a lot of cool stuff. I can filter by my own extension here, which are only a few objects here. I can go and bookmark some objects and filter on the bookmark objects. Typically that would be the objects you are working with. I can go and filter by type or group by type to the code, as you would expect. Right? So this is coming very soon in the EL VS Code extension. Now the next part I'm going to show you now it's not quite there yet, we're still working on it, but I couldn't resist showing it to you. You'll see there's a button here called Design. So you won't see that in the first iteration of this release. But if I go and click it on my table, I'm opening the designer here, and let me split this on the right, and then I go and reopen this in text, so I have the designer and the code side by side. And then I can go and do the things that you would expect and that you missed from C side. I can go and add some, edit some property without writing any code, and see, my code get updated right away. I can go and also edit the code here, and see this full one trip between the designer and the code. And take a look at the fields here. I might want to change, for example, my picture field to something else. I can, if I want it to be, say, media set instead of blog, it's changed here. I can change it back to blog, and so forth. So the themes of this release, we've done a lot of investments in making Business Central a seamless service in terms of operation, in terms of performance. We've invested in onboarding to help your customer get started.
This topic, and then just for introduction, my name is Vjenko Babic or Vjekoslav Babic, whichever you prefer. Both are equally probably complicated. I've been a member of this community for a long time. I've been delivering sessions here, and you who know me from earlier know that I've usually presented stuff on the cutting edge of things. In case, forget, everything is binary, every value is a sequence of bytes. That's how Git sees. And then the rest, exactly as we expected. Now we know why this happens and what will happen. Single file, which is called index, and we know it from Visual Studio Code as a staging area. And this is what it actually is. And Git also calls it that way when we next commit. And then let's take a look at what happens when we really commit this into the repository. So this is the contents of the. Now, you might ask a question like, why are these two different? Because it's the same root. Like I have exact same files. It didn't change. So why did the SHA change? Well, it's easy. Because in this case, I have these two which are exactly the same, so I didn't change one file, and I didn't change this tree that points to roots. But I did change games.txt. I've added something, so there is a new SHA for this new block, and I need a new pointer. And since there is a new pointer, I also need to change the SHA of this tree. So what does Git do? First, it goes to the root, and then it checks the SHA to see if the SHA changed. If the root SHA didn't change, then it doesn't have to check anything else, because then everything else inside is exact. So Git is not all powerful, because it doesn't care about changes. It simply cares about snapshots, and it will do its best effort to present those snapshots as a set of differences to you. So what happens when you commit when you are in the detached head mode? Because you can do that. Exact same stuff happens. Git first looks into the head file and sees, okay, I'm in detached head mode. So I simply need to update the contents with the SHA of this new commit, and now I'm there.
That cannot be that simple, because there are a lot of terms going on. And I hope to, well, catch most of those words that are on this slide. The client application can request to that resource owner, please give me access to your resource. And Azure Active Directory can store that granted permission from the user to that client application. We grant access to something that is in the very same Azure Active Directory. It cannot grant access to something else outside the Azure Active Directory. That's how it starts. The moment that you create an administration in your home directory, you also get that service principal. Permissions to resources inside the other Azure Active Directory. That as a server application is data behind it that wants to expose the data with an API. And then it can also register the API endpoint, the name of it, and say, okay, another application can get access to my API endpoint. But also here a service principal. And let's say this directory is a directory from an ISV or a PAM. Creating an app, and that app needs access to the business central resource of the customer. There are two types of roles that play a role. You have the user role, which can be assigned to a user or a group of users, and we have an application role, which is a specific role type because you do not assign it to a user. Come on.
Silly face. Come on.
Wow, so many people. Do you all have performance problems? I do as well, by the way. Yeah, I do have a little bit of a performance problem. I'm going to apologize in front already. I'm a little bit sick, so I'm going to take my distance. So if I'm a little bit talking nonsense, I blame you then. If I wouldn't do code reviews, I wouldn't know how person A or team B is coding. And there is a lot you can check in code reviews. Performance, readability, maintainability, security. There are some simple things, some less simple things. I try to categorize them. Well, it's data access and some coding, but yeah,
data access is coding, and in the coding part you will see some data access as well. So let's just say that I will be talking about all these things during this session. But since I got blob fields on every single table extension, I was still getting all my joins, which pretty much make this table slow. So just imagine there is a service that's constantly profiling, you would be able to set an particle, and particle captures that, and you are able to do stuff. So you can take one, I have a limited amount, it takes 2 hours to print one. So yeah, I've been ready for 2 weeks for all these. So, so please take one. I don't want to see any of them anymore.
Yes, sir.
Today we want to address a couple of advanced topics. It's a collection of things, maybe some do not relate to the other, but I think it's enough to help you on to the next stage. And if you still need to start somewhere low, well, there's enough to find.
And this methodology is called screen development, and it's not fixed until the customer stops screening.
And whether they really plan their testing or not,
Yep.
they will test it.
They are going to test it in advance. So the press, you can help with the either VC container helper is on the GitHub. Also, all of the test run things are on the ALM extension, so you can also contribute to the
Anybody want one? For free, of course, but yeah, for free the sun goes up.
Welcome everyone to this session on what's new in this, and we don't want to have codification. They're inheriting everything there. Only the visibility can be customized. Some pages in the provided syntax. You've seen the web client that you have this lock icon here, and that one will prevent you from customizing the page, but if you just click on it, you'll have the opportunity to convert your page automatically.
Microsoft is also where we're going, and the road to that. So what I don't think you mentioned, but actually business definitely is moving to the core because that's more efficient to run on servers.
Yes.
You'll be pushed to move away from the .NET framework. And it's going to be soon. And my slides was 3 weeks long term, but I knew that it's now.
Yes, that was what yesterday also told you yesterday.
Also, even though you might be able to upgrade your .NET framework libraries to the core, maybe the developer retired, it's probably likely, or the vendor went out of business, or for some other reason you cannot get there. And also there's a huge part of .NET framework libraries which cannot be ported. So .NET was based on Win32 and .NET graphics in there, and that doesn't mix with .NET Core at all. You start there, and then you basically add your own .NET EL code to the solution. So for that we already had an asset function that we used for the cloud version of that. That was very easy, so we just added it. And also, as Esben talked about, the interface in our case is basically we send over the wire that we need data sets with the data that people need in the report, then we have the layouts, and then we have what output we want if you want to have Excel or PDF, and then we have the license information so we can tell people from that has on start and on stop down here. And basically, if you ever play around with a search, you know that you restart the PC server all the time. You know that you can start or restart and stop it. So these are basically the message being called in here that does that. What you also need to do, or I definitely recommend you to do, is also to add calls to the event log, so you actually write down what you're doing. So if the service doesn't work, there's no UI, remember. You can actually go to the event log, or somebody can go and say it stopped because of some weird error in here.
digitalization and the digital transformation with Microsoft.
I'm very glad to be able to start this session and to introduce ourselves. This is actually the first time that Waldo has agreed to have me in the first slot. You know. It was always Waldo and Diego. So yes, this is now Diego and Waldo. Okay, and Waldo. So we are Diego and Waldo. Yes, I'm totally happy.
Finally, is bad. Yeah? This is completely ridiculous. And if you understand the joke, you kind of like prove my point. Yeah? Okay. So, numerology has many faces. In a way, we are, and I see a lot of people still, putting object IDs in, for instance, files names, because we remember them, and then we can easily find a file, copy, and start with the ID. Or compulsive object ranges trying to force objects in a certain range, like I reserve 10 IDs because I need everything from the resource module, let's say.
Then another thing is no extensibility. 10 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago, when writing CL code, we all wrote code without having to think how it would be extended, because the only way to extend the code was to just go in there and hack away. And we know that our code needs to have event publishers, and we should invoke those event publishers, but it's not just about that. For example, enums. We create enums, and then we make those enums automatically extensible without really managing that extensibility. So we should either not make enums extensible, or when we do, we should have our code to be able to manage that, to be aware of possibilities where other people will extend.
In any case, we should be embracing dependencies. And this is something in this new world from AL, which is actually not that new anymore, that we need to get used to. It's have to just, let's say, test the unit, test our app, maybe test only the method in the app. We also need to do the, let's say, when they're all installed, right?
Can you give the shirt?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So, Waldo says so. Yep. Good luck.
If I understand it correctly, the question is, rather than you have all these different apps, how do you make sure that they all work together, right? Yes. And if I would, I always test and build them together.
I wouldn't recommend. But would you consider when you have 40 apps, if you have 7 of those apps that are extending?
We actually are in a situation